think. We did Portugal. The last one is work. Yeah.
How many years?
30. It's, yeah, it's a nice journey. So that was personal.
Let's give it one more minute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. That feels like it was ages ago now.
It's o'clock to me.
Okay, it's 6:01. We have a quorum. I hereby call the meeting of the special meeting of the Township Zoning Board of Appeals to order. First item of business, my favorite item, pledge of allegiance. Please stand as ready. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Ms. Parr.
Here.
Corey.
Here.
Ms. Cascarella.
Present.
Mr. Arking, that's me. I'm here. Mr. Hicks, Mr. Kaltenbeck, and Mr. McConnell, and alternate Bodena are not present. Next item, approval of the agenda. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
No.
All in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, agenda is adopted. Next item, approval of the minutes from the December 5th meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented with one personal privilege correction in the second paragraph of the second page. Add a K to the spelling of my name.
Okay, sorry about that.
So moved.
Support.
Motion all support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none. Minutes are adopted. Okay, that brings us to item number 8, the public hearing. Before us, we have case number V-28-07-08, petitioner Darlene Brimley of 7325 East Willow Highway. Matt, please tell us about the proposal.
All right.
The variance request.
All righty. Sorry, just pull my notes here. So the applicant, Darlene Brimley at 7325 Willow Highway, has a detached garage that I think I in the stat mistakenly wrote up as a lost to fire, but it was actually in that the windstorm we had over the summer. So lost the garage. We have in our ordinance a section for legal non-conforming buildings. So her property is zoned Ag 2, which is basically our kind of like mix, large lot residential with like kind of lighter agricultural uses. That has a rear setback for just detached accessory buildings in general of 25 feet. This building has a setback, or did have a setback of 2 feet. The remaining pad for the structure is a setback of 2 feet. The zoning ordinance has a provision that says that any legal non-conforming, also known as grandfathered building that was legally built but then made illegal by new zoning changes cannot be rebuilt if more than 50% of the state equalized value is destroyed. The purpose of the ordinance is basically to get rid of non-conforming structures that are, providing nuisances to neighbors. In this instance, the applicant is arguing that she should be able to rebuild her garage on the pad due to the fact that she can't really relocate it into the eastern part of her property because of she has a septic field there. And that her builder told her that moving it closer down towards the road and she would have to move it 23 feet down this way. For one thing, she might be in danger of being too close to the house. There's a 10 feet separation requirement by fire code. And then also that you'd have to rebuild the pad, which might be a prohibitive cost. Applicant is here with prepared to answer the 5 questions from section B and one of the answers from section C in the variance standards. I'm here to answer any questions you have as well. So with that, I guess I'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you, man. I got a
Yeah.
couple of questions though.
Sure.
Isn't it an unusually small lot for the Ag 2?
Yeah, and I should mention that as well. Yeah, so it is it's I believe a half-acre lot where we require 2 acres. The width is fine, but so which basically means that in a normal circumstance, you would have a lot about that wide, but then it would be way deeper. So that is part of the problem where she is not. It's not a self-created problem because in reality, a normal A2 lot would go back to probably back in this range here probably. Part of the argument too is that even though this is a rear setback for her neighbor is on this private street here. It's actually more, the rules are for her lot, but in effect, the impact is that this is this person's side yard. And this is like 200 feet from here and then 300 feet from the actual house. So it's, not probably creating any problems. And also did some research. The building was built in 1964 before this lot existed. This lot was split off in 84, but it wasn't, sometimes you see that where we're the ones that created the problem. Her lot didn't change at all. So it wasn't like split off of her lot. So we didn't create the problem, but basically her garage had been standing there for almost 60 years without any issue to neighbors. And she's just trying to rebuild it in the same footprint that it was in. This lot was created in 84, I believe, but like I said, the structure had been there for about 20 years at that point.
What I was trying to hit at, and
Sorry.
you were too, is that the R2 zone
Yeah,
it anticipates a lot more space to work with.
yeah, and so for a half-acre lot, that would actually be in between RA and RB. So RB is kind of our standard suburban zoning lot is like 12,000 square feet, whereas a half acre would be like 23,000 square feet. So in a RA is 1 acre. So it's kind of in between there. And those districts have a rear setback of only 5 feet. So if this were just a standard kind of suburban lot, she would be only asking for a variance of like 2 or 3 feet. So yeah, based on the size of the lot, we have rear standards of 5. So.
2 other questions. One,
Sure.
the pro forma question. Did we receive any correspondence?
Did not receive any correspondence from neighbors. Nope.
And the other question is there any utility service to that garage, to the old garage, electric service?
The applicant says yes. Yep.
But the old garage did have electric service to its old location. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Matt?
Andrea has one.
Andrea, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Matt, just a couple of questions
Sure.
were already addressed. I was going to ask if the neighbor to the north
Mhm.
had provided any comment.
Yep.
But just wanted, I think you alluded to this, but just wanted to make sure to clarify kind of on the record. Our setback requirements are really to provide that buffer for neighbors with buildings. And I think
Yeah.
there's some fire safety considerations as well.
And then like the Ag 2 district, I'd say a lot of it is a little bit more like aesthetic where you're creating like that country feel, but like, yeah, in a suburban setting, it's definitely more that's what it's 5 feet. Because then on both sides, you'd be 5 feet, which gives you the 10 feet you need for fire code. So yeah, in the ag two, it is more aesthetic, but yeah, that they are partially built on that idea of like creating like safety between structures. Yep.
Sure, so with, if we were to approve a variance,
Mhm.
it's really not, it would be inconsistent then with the intent of
Yeah, I would,
the
I would,
setback provisions, given the
Yeah, I would-
home on the lot to the north is so far.
yeah, I would say it's,
From that.
yeah, exactly. I would say like improving it would be consistent with a lot of the zoning, like the only one that's kind of iffy is the provision about just eliminating non-conforming structures, but I mean, the rest of the intent of the zoning ordinance for aesthetics and safety, I would say it's consistent with that.
And that was one of the questions I had too, was kind of the intent behind that. You mentioned, I think, in cases where there were nuisances, this creates a trigger to
Right.
have that removed, but it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like if the
Yeah,
neighbor hasn't commented, that garage has not been a nuisance, and so
Right.
it would be
Ex-
inconsistent with the ultimate intent.
yeah, because that's the good way to put it. Yeah, the ultimate intent to create, yeah, just safety and aesthetic, please, yeah. Yeah, you see it in a lot of zoning, our zoning ordinance doesn't have sign standards, but that's a very common one, like to get rid of like big ugly signs that don't belong there is this very provision to just not allow people that once it's destroyed by an act of God or like, which are laid out with fire, wind and all the other stuff, so.
Any other questions for staff?
Open the public hearing.
Hearing none, can motion to open the public hearing?
I said that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to
Support.
open the public hearing. All in favor? Now, it's all I need a second.
I seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Both, hearing none, public hearing is open. Ms. Burnley, this portion, this is the public hearing, the portion, this is your opportunity to come to the podium and make your case along the lines we briefly discussed earlier. Need to meet all 5 of the criteria in section 15.04B, 1 through 5, and then one of the 2 criteria in section 15.404C. And we do this so that there's a record that we've done our due diligence and everything was up and up. So if you wouldn't mind, please come to the podium and start off by stating your name and address for the record. If you prefer to sit, that's true, that's fine too.
I can get you a chair if you need.
Can you hear me from there?
If you want to pull a chair up to this mic there, if you like. That right
I
now. Grab you a chair right here. Here you go.
just got a wonky knee right now. I got a wonky knee. Not boards. Helping deconstruct. Yeah, my name is Darlene Brimley, 7325 Willow Highway, Grand Ledge. I'm here tonight to request a variance to reconstruct a new garage because of the storm. And can I say, will it hurt anything if I say that lot is not a half acre? It's shy of a half acre.
No,
No, go ahead, clarify.
Anything at all.
Yeah.
Trust me, Matt knows.
I'm just basing it off of this, but this, you know, she's
It
right.
fooled our realtor when we bought the place.
Yeah, and it's confusing sometimes because out in the country, it measures from the center of the road, so it's a little weird. to do.
Right.
Yep, so less than a half acre, so
And
she's
I've
even
got
closer to the.
I've got the stakes out there, but
Yep.
we thought we owned that patch of land in front of that little woods back there, the swamp. But we found out the previous neighbor owned it. And I had mowed it for years until they moved. Okay, and I have to answer these 5 questions.
Would it help if I led you through them?
Let's see, the variance request is, the variance is due to the fact that the barn was built in 64 or before all the zoning regulations. And the garage has been there for at least 60 years because we've been there for 21. And let's see yeah, the variance wouldn't affect the neighbors at all. All the neighbors are good and said, no worry. And the bottom one, number 2 is, it would be an improvement to the lot. If I could obtain a variance to rebuild a new garage.
Maybe, I'd like to give you my impression of how I see this, starting with the criteria, I'd like to start with the criteria under section C first, because I
Mhm.
feel that this is just my view, not the board's view, but
Mhm.
I feel that the granting of the variance would do substantial justice here. Asking you to relocate your existing pad and your existing electric service would, in my opinion, cause an undue hardship, especially given the objectives of the agricultural 2 zone and residential zone and the history of the property and the configuration of the property. I just think that you're hemmed in and your septic field is making it even harder. So I find that 2C carries a lot of weight. In fact, it allows me to, some of these other ones in section 1504B,
Yeah.
1 through 5. I mean, I think some of these might be arguable, but I think that the argument in section 2C is so overwhelming that it makes me find on the side of approval in each case that the variance is due to unique circumstances. I find yes.
Yeah.
That the variance is not going to cause an adverse impact on other properties. I find yes. That the need for the variance is not self-created. Technically, that means not by you or any
No.
other previous landowner. However, I'm not sure how those lot lines got drawn the way they were. It could have been the township that did it.
Yeah, and
I don't
I would
know.
argue that, yeah, it would be, still would, like, you're right, that you're supposed to take in the previous owners to count towards the self-created, but then in this case, it was built in 64 where we did have very limited zoning rules, but yeah, not very many. So it was built before basically we had any rules.
And that the variance is not contrary to the purposes of this ordinance. This ordinance doesn't want to unduly burden our residents, and so it's not contrary.
Mhm.
And that no non-conforming use neighboring property is going to be used to judge this one, but that's not applicable here. So you pass that test too. So in my opinion, the very quick summary I just ran through, there's a case to be made to meet all the criteria in section 1504B 1 through 5 and section C 2. Did that make sense to you? Did you follow? Did you concur with
Yes.
that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I hope that helped.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say right now? I think you had some
No.
plans you might wanted to show to the board.
Yeah. I have plans if they're interested in them.
If anybody wants to see our plans for the building, you're welcome to.
I'm fine. Garage.
One sec.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Can't think of anything. Yeah. And all the neighbors we've talked to this fall said that they have no problem, so.
And the new garage is going to use the existing pad, be no bigger. than the
Yes.
existing pad.
Right, yeah.
Starting, I may.
And are there any questions for the applicant from board members? Andrea?
Just curious, when were you hoping to begin reconstruction of your garage?
My builder is keeping in touch with me. He's already ordered trusses and some of the material. And he just needs this part,
So they're able to
Yeah.
start this winter?
some kind of conclusion on what we can do. But he's ready to do it.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant from board members?
Prepare to make a motion.
Is there anybody?
Public hearing
Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this in the audience? I have to ask.
I have another
Okay.
question about the boundary lines. How can we get accurate verification on those boundary lines? When we looked at the house to buy, the realtor thought that we owned further back behind the garage. But when I finally found the deed thing that showed, it had it all marked off, 150 feet deep and 144 feet wide,
So
something like
When
that.
you bought it, were you given a survey, perhaps a mortgage?
Yeah, there was an
survey?
old survey, yeah.
You might want to
nothing new.
consider hiring a private surveyor to have
Yeah.
that updated.
yeah, that would be the only way to know
Yeah.
for sure. I would suspect that what probably happened was that whoever told you that was measuring probably from the edge of the right of way as opposed to so your property description starts in the middle of the road.
Yeah,
So they probably thought that
Yeah.
it started at the edge of the right of way and gave you like an extra, whatever, 20 or 30 feet
but
probably.
what you have squared off up there is the accurate. What
This
they
is,
do,
so
the
generally
lines
speaking, this would be accurate, like, so this is a 2D map of a 3D world, so it
Mhm.
can be sort of like off by a couple of feet, but never more than like 2 or 3 feet. So this would be basically accurate, that it would be probably about 2 feet off, I would say. And you can kind of tell in this case, because it goes right down the center of the road, so it is probably accurate, north-south at least.
Presumably there's an iron buried in each of those corners.
Yeah, yeah.
And the surveyor should be able to find.
Yeah.
those. And if there's not, you'll.
Yeah,
I found them on the backside. I found them at the backside. I marked them with my own stick too, just to put a
Okay.
little flag on them. So,
Any other comments for this?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to close the public hearing.
Close public hearing, motion on the floor to close, support, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing done. Public hearing is closed. Thank you.
I'm prepared to make a motion. All right,
Okay.
in case V 23 0708. I move the zoning board of appeals to approve the request variance from section 9.02 A1 of the Delta Township zoning ordinance to allow for reconstruction of an accessory building. The legal non-conforming rear yard setback of 2 feet as described in this case, for the following reasons, the applicant has demonstrated that the proposed variance request satisfies the review criteria contained in section 15.04 C and D of the zoning ordinance.
Support.
One friendly amendment, I think that's supposed to be sections B and C. Yes,
Okay,
not C and D, B and C.
okay, that's what was written down here, so
Yeah, I know, but it's wrong.
I know.
absolutely. Okay.
So there's a motion on the floor. Second,
Yep.
Andrea, second. A roll call vote for this. Ms. Carr,
Excuse me, approval.
Scott Scarella,
Support.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin, yes. So you have 4 votes affirmative, the motion passes. Matt, please inform the applicant of the next steps.
Okay, so I'll send you the approval tomorrow, but basically now your builder is free to do as long as you just rebuild on that same pad, you're good to go to grab a permit. So thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
thank you,
You're very
thank you
You're
very much.
welcome.
Thank you, enjoy it.
Well, I totally understand why you want to,
Yeah.
here's your,
All the plans, yeah.
Get your plans.
Especially before all the
Take
snow
care.
comes.
Yes.
That brings us to item number 9, old business. Is there any? I see none on the agenda. Okay, moving along to.
You're good to go. You come in, the store should be open to leave if you need to, so, yep. You're very welcome. Take care.
And item 10, other business, none?
Nope.
Number 11, staff comments. Anything?
I'm not aware of any potential variances on the horizon, so I guess just Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and see you next year.
Same to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Board comments other than happy Halloween? I have one. Can you remind me what is being built on Marketplace Boulevard?
That is on the south of,
Yeah.
it's a assisted living facility.
Really?
Yep.
It's an odd location for that. I wouldn't have guessed.
Kind of, yeah, I think of that area basically like on the other side of Marketplace, I think there's a couple of like commercial or office, and then on the side of the streets being built on is all either multifamily or, yeah, like office zoning, yeah.
Fascinating.
Did you ever talk to somebody about, remember I called you about that tent? I think that.
I had a couple
Michigan
people, I
Avenue.
mean, I forwarded it on to the sheriff, I don't know
Oh,
if they did
that's
anything
not
about it,
anything
yeah.
that You should do, but I just, but that's strange. I think it's probably Ives property, but I don't know. It's on Michigan Avenue
Yes.
between Forest Glen. Not Forest Glen, but it's the condominiums, and then there's vacant, all this vacant land, and there's a tent in there, 2 tents. There's one, probably it's a bathroom or a refrigerator, I don't know what. And then a tent that's in there.
Yeah,
People are living there.
yeah, I think I had a
And then
couple calls
it's
about
more
that.
residential after that. So, you know, like Holloway Drive and then, so I thought that was strange.
It's interesting, just with the people being unable to afford homes. I was at San Diego for a conference and, huge, California is just very expensive. And it's been a few years since I've been to San Diego, I think maybe 4 or 5 years. But I was there, but right downtown, all over downtown, families, I mean, they're clearly like working
Mhm.
people, they're employed, but living in tents all along the sidewalk,
amazing.
all over
It's amazing.
downtown.
Mm.
They can't afford houses and they live in tents on the sidewalk and right in the middle of downtown. And again, they're clearly like,
I think it's
There
a
was-
sizable purport, it's like
Oh, it's
75% of people like
all
most
over.
have
I mean,
jobs, I think.
you
I
just
believe,
walk around and it's just the sidewalks are taken over with tents.
Mm. Well, I mean, you look at Arizona, you.
Just can't afford to
I mean,
live in a
it's just
home.
all the immigrants coming in that illegals, so.
Yeah, this is just folks that live there that can, and
Yeah, right.
my son-in-law knows someone who he went to school with and works in California, works for Google, but can't afford to pay rent and lives out of his car.
Yeah,
It's just so
yeah, the car one is very, very
insanely
common, yeah.
expensive.
It's not just immigrants, it's a part of.
Oh, yeah, no,
Oh,
this,
Yeah.
no,
But
it's
it's not,
it's,
but there's a part of the American dream that's broken. People cannot afford a house.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
it was when we were growing up.
mhm,
these are people that are working
yes.
that just can't
Rents.
afford.
Yeah, rents
rent.
are outrageous.
And there's aren't places to rent and the places that are available
Yeah, I
or
think the-
buy are just not affordable.
Well, like
If you-
since I was born, I think roughly like the cost of a house has like gone up like 300%.
Especially when you think proportion to
And then
salary
like,
or
and then
income.
salary,
Yeah.
the salaries have basically been like
Stagnant,
0%, yeah, so it's like.
Between diminished opportunity and student debt, rising costs and a number of other factors, it's tough to. Let me start.
I'd like to make a motion.
Any
that we
other
adjourn.
comments?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn
Support.
and have a
Alright.
wonderful Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, that sounds good.
My point was I
Motion on the
the town
floor that we adjourn to
meeting
Merry
could have done
Christmas.
that, but I
That is supported. All